and use the raised hand function when you want to speak. We have a big agenda, so we'll get moving on. Vicky, apologies for absence and substitute, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We haven't got any apologies for absence this evening and no substitutes. So if you don't mind, can I take a roll call of members present at this point?
Go for it.
Okay, so if you can just unmute yourself and say whether you're present or not, and then mute yourself again. Thank you. Obviously, Councillor Foster, you're here. Councillor Barrett.
Here.
Councillor Brockbank.
Present.
Councillor Heseltine.
Present, miss.
Councillor Ireton.
Present.
Councillor Liss.
Present.
Councillor Madeley.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Morell.
Present.
Councillor Mulligan.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Myers.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Noland.
Present.
Councillor Place.
Here.
Councillor Rose.
Present.
Councillor Welsh.
Present.
And Councillor Wheeler.
Present.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vicky. It appears to be dark in Settle, Councillor Welsh. Moving on, confirmation of minutes.
Goodness knows why, but I'm here.
Confirmation of minutes. Looking around, I'm looking for hands up, anybody shouting or screaming, but nobody appears to be. So we'll take that as silence is good. Public participation, Vicky, do we have any?
No, there is nobody speaking under public participation, but we do have Councillor Eric Jacquin, who is speaking as a ward councillor at item 8, Chairman. Thank you.
Agenda item 4, declarations of interest. Looking around for raised hands, haven't seen any. But so we'll assume no declarations of interest and move on to agenda item 5. We do have James Mason here, the Chief Exec from Welcome to Yorkshire, to go through this with us. So, James, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Nice to meet a lot of you, some of which I've met in person, some of you I haven't met at all, and a couple of you I've met just via the internet over the last 3 or 4 months. My name's James Mason, Yorkshireman through and through. Lived most of my life in West Yorkshire, but I've also been lucky enough to live in some wonderful other parts of the world, including America, Australia, London. Don't know if that's lucky to have lived in London, but also recently the Middle East as well. Travelling, not living, sorry, in the last one. But I joined Welcome to Yorkshire back in January, having been a journalist for most of my life as a broadcast journalist, working for the BBC, having worked on the BBC's World Service, radio and television programmes, and then I ran my hometown football club, Bradford City, the world's greatest football team. And for a couple of years after that, I was very fortunate to be a sports agent, travelling around the world and representing talent in America, the Middle East, and the Far East. And I was an international traveller for those 2 years. And I suppose one of the attractions of joining Welcome to Yorkshire back in January was probably the breadth of knowledge that I was going to bring to the role about international tourism, I suppose partisan tourism, and understanding how the rest of the world shouts from the rooftop about their place of home. No one is prouder to come from Yorkshire than probably most of you on this call. And when I joined in January, I was probably, like many of us on the call, disappointed with the last couple of years in terms of what had happened at Welcome to Yorkshire. Achieved some wonderful highs, bringing the Tour de France to the county in 2014, winning the Garden of the Decade at the Royal Chelsea Flower Show. But at the same time, I suppose in the last 16 months, brought some considerable bad press to the county, but more so the brand of Welcome to Yorkshire. I think the brand of Yorkshire hasn't been damaged to a point, but certainly Welcome to Yorkshire's brand has. So my remit was simple: regain trust with local authorities and the private sector, regain a market share across the rest of the country, and principally our role is to market Yorkshire as a destination to visit, both nationally, domestically and internationally, and also try and rebuild some bridges. And that was a brief that I took on, but it was also a brief with a budget. I had a budget to play with, the best part of £1 million of local authority money, which was ring-fenced through the business rates pool, and a working capital budget of £500,000 plus from private sector income. And I'd started to do that. So I'd met the likes of Paul and Councillor Foster and our colleagues in South Yorkshire, East Yorkshire, North and West Yorkshire. And I suppose I felt like a politician to some extent. I was on the campaign trail to try and win votes and ask people to back our strategy. And our new strategy is very much a Welcome to Yorkshire's approach to what Yorkshire needs to look like now and in the future, but also with a real deference to the past as well, to celebrate our diversity of offer, our diversity of people, and also our place on the world map. What I didn't expect in my first 6 months was a global pandemic, whereby I went from asking people to come to Yorkshire to actively asking them not to come to the county. And we turned from being a marketing agency asking people to come and spend their time and money in Yorkshire, but actually asking them to no longer come, not because we didn't want them, but it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe for our residents, whether that's in the newly titled beach town of the year, Runswick Bay, or whether that's in Skipton or Harrogate or York or Sheffield or Barnsley. It wasn't safe. So that was a challenge I wasn't expecting. And if I'm honest, I'm quite a humble individual. It wasn't a challenge that I or anyone on this call was probably equipped to deal with, because no one's ever done it before. So notwithstanding the challenge of trying to rebuild a brand and regain trust, we had to try and put our arms around the tourism economy of Yorkshire and demonstrate that we were actually fit for purpose, that we weren't just an organisation that can celebrate Yorkshire, but we're also an organisation that can defend Yorkshire. And when I say defend, I mean defend our small micro businesses, of which they contribute £9 billion to the Yorkshire economy and employ 225,000 jobs. That wasn't on the job description, but it was a challenge that I took head on. We turned into a lobbying organisation overnight, working on behalf of business owners that were falling between the cracks of the Chancellor's grants given out to businesses that were paying business rates, but not necessarily businesses that were paying council tax. And again, a new foray for Welcome to Yorkshire. However, I think we've given a good account of ourselves. We're not out of the woods yet. And I think asking for £1.4 million of local government funding is a real challenge at a time when money could be used on public health, could be used on infrastructure, could be used on a number of other things. But at the same time, I think we'd all agree, whether you've ever been to an art gallery, a visitor attraction, a coastal bed and breakfast stay, a hotel, a national park, or Saturday afternoon pub lunch or Sunday afternoon pub lunch, the tourism industry touches us all in many ways. The actual supply chain of the tourism industry is enormous. 1 in 3 jobs in Yorkshire are connected with the tourism industry. And as we've seen in the last few weeks, a £1.5 billion rescue package for the arts sector has been released. So Welcome to Yorkshire asking for 1.4 million isn't us trading badly, isn't us doing something untoward, isn't us pouring money down a drain on campaigns that aren't worthwhile. We're just in the same boat as everyone else right now. And the 1.4 million, how long have I got, by the way, Councillor Foster? Because I could probably go on all night, but I'm happy to just do 5 or 10 minutes more and invite questions.
5 minutes and some questions to be really good, James.
Perfect. So, long story short, my role now is to make sure that I bang the drum for a part of the county, a part of the country that is the biggest county in England, that has the same population as Scotland, Ireland, Denmark, and New Zealand, but with very limited funds. And my concern would be that if Welcome to Yorkshire doesn't continue, who will adequately fight for the businesses that need support right now, but also post-COVID, really bang the drum and celebrate our county to a national audience, especially with domestic tourism and staycations so popular, but also put Yorkshire back on an international map once international restrictions are changed. My plan as part of the strategy is to transform the visitor economy in terms of asking people not just to visit Yorkshire, but also to come and live here, to work here, to study here, to build families, to build a legacy for themselves. I'm a father of 2 young children in Guiseley in West Yorkshire, but I've chosen Yorkshire as my place to live. I want my children to study here and build families here, and therefore I also want people across the world to come here. That's the plan for the next 12 months, but also to give me time to build some income streams whereby there'll be a less reliance on the public purse, less reliance on the private sector. On August the 1st, we'll be launching Welcome to Yorkshire's first ever personal membership. For £20, we're going to plant a tree for every member that signs up with Welcome to Yorkshire. This could be the 20 people on this call, or it could be people that live in America, Australia, France, Canada, London, all those connections, that diaspora of Yorkshire across the world. And from there, in a couple of years' time, we want to reinvest this money back into projects that can support Yorkshire on a national and international scale. I've got a digital marketing background. That's my forte. I'm a big believer in social media and using data. And what we can offer local authorities going forward is real insight and real data into the 1 million people that follow us on social media to enable you all to make better informed decisions. A complete shift, gear shift of what Welcome to Yorkshire has done in the past, but we'll do it with humility, we'll do it with expertise, we'll do it with insight. And I think if we are given another year of public funding, in a year's time, we'll be in a really strong position to demonstrate what we've achieved in that year. If nothing else, we would have provided a real valuable service at a time where tourism is needed. And actually, there's a boom on the horizon, not a bust. We're on the back end of COVID. So that's where I'd like to finish, Councillor Foster, but happy to invite questions.
I probably didn't explain well enough why I asked James to come, but I think he's the best marketer for Welcome to Yorkshire there is. And I also, you know, give him a chance to sing for his supper in a way. So those are the reasons. I've Councillor Wheeler with a hand up.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, just a couple of questions and some comments, actually. I'm grateful to Paul and David for giving me some background and some figures sort of prior to this. I mean, we're all aware of the checkered past of the brand prior to the new incarnation, and I think looking at the money that they're after, I added it up to about from 5 district councils, about 232,000, and so far, without our money, they've only got 21% of that. Couple of councils have said no, and other councils given 1/5 of it. So one of my concerns is, if we give the 25,000, and in the scheme of things for the 1.4 million, it's not a lot, but if we do, and others aren't forthcoming, is this thing going to wither on the vine and we just chuck £25,000 away, which we could have put into something else to help tourism? Because there are no guarantees, and I appreciate it. It's a risk, and it was outlined in the report. It's a risk, but I'm coming from a different angle. Years ago, in a past life, I dealt with the Yorkshire Tourist Board through Welcome Host and other initiatives, and worked with small local groups in West Yorkshire that dealt with the tourism. And I'm wondering whether this Welcome to Yorkshire approach is going to be best for us, or do we take it a little bit more localized and go on a brand which I think is probably as strong, if not stronger, which is the Dales, and look at putting our money into tourism for the Dales. And I know it's a little bit more internal and maybe not as outward looking as Yorkshire, but I do feel that the Yorkshire Dales brand is strong enough for us to join with other similar authorities in the Dales and do something bigger and better. And I know David certainly has told me some background on the Dales Tourism Partnership, but now I'm not suggesting that's reincarnated, although I gather work's going on in that. But possibly this £25,000 might be better spent going more local and looking at a Dales tourism initiative, rather than taking a gamble on an organisation that hasn't got all the money in and may not survive a year. Thank you.
I don't know whether that was actually a question for you, James, but if you can find one in there, I'm happy to let you answer.
Yeah, sorry, it was a statement and a question.
Yeah, so just to unpick some of the grey areas here, the £1.4 million ask is not emergency fund bailout money. That's operating budget for a year. So there is no question that Welcome to Yorkshire with that money can survive well into the summer of next year. So it's an all or nothing plea from me. We don't want a bit, we don't want half of it, we want it all. And the reason being is we can offer a service for that, but we can demonstrate value. So there's absolutely no chance of us going bust. And the reason being is since January, we've reduced the staffing level from 55 members of staff, which was enormous, to 20. A mixture of necessary cuts, but also COVID-19. We've reduced our operating costs by £1 million. That's my expertise, saving money and making money. So therefore, we've now got a resting heartbeat of something that we've got a grip on. We understand the costs of the business, and for any business owner, the two key things are how can we, save money or make money? How can we pay the bills? So the 1.4 million takes us well into next year. It may actually be the only time we ever ask for money if we get things right, but it's unlikely. Let's be clear about that. The subscription model that we ask for each year is to market Yorkshire. So that's to market Craven, that's to market Hambleton, Skipton, Richmond, you name it. So £25,000 is a lot of money. Let's not beat around the bush. But actually, it's not a huge amount of money to market a significant area. You could spend that on a week's advertising in a newspaper. You could spend it on a couple of days on television, or we can use the assets that we've already got. We can probably tell you how many clicks we get for the Craven district. So I suppose, don't worry about the money going in. We won't take it if we don't get all the money. My decision will be based on all or nothing. If we don't get the full 1.4, there probably is no point continuing. That's the reality of the situation. But if we do get it, it will provide a service for the whole county. And I mean the whole county as an umbrella organisation well into the summer of next year. It will enable me to recruit more staff. When I say more staff, a couple of people that I want to replace in positions that have left the organisation, an investment in some infrastructure in terms of a CRM system that's going to be fit for purpose, but also enable me to build an e-commerce channel, potentially an app for the county, which again can enable us to generate money so that in a year's time, I can probably say how successful we've been on a scale of not very, moderate to very. So there's no concern that we will go bust in the next 12 months. However, we want all the money or nothing. I don't want to do a half-baked job. So I don't know if that answers the question. Dales Tourism, certainly well worth inputting. I would say we do a very good job already of that. So the balance would be, what are you taking away from something that already works well? But I fully understand that question, Councillor Wheeler.
Councillor Mulligan, do you want to comment?
Thank you, and thank you, James, for coming to the meeting and for that introductory remarks, which I thought were very interesting. I agree with much of what you say, and I support this. I don't think it is a huge amount of money in the context of what's at stake, and that's what we're talking about, especially the timing of coming out of the COVID, the recovery, and coming out of lockdown, and tourism being such a vital part of the North Yorkshire economy. And I think you've demonstrated quite a bit of enthusiasm. You've got some innovative ideas. And we need to be looking to the future and not to the past. So I know that organization has had some difficulties recently, and that's got to be put behind us. I'm disappointed that some of these districts have given some half-hearted contribution, or maybe not all of it. I assume the counties have been more forthcoming. I don't think this is a gamble. I think in a way it's a sort of prove it deal, because we're going to see what you do in the next year and what your sort of initiatives are, and we will, and I hope we'll continue to support you, because I think this is a vital organization, and what will replace it, and especially with the timing of the lockdown. And we got to get our tourism industry back on its feet. So thank you, James, and I'm 100% behind you.
Thank you, Councillor Mulligan. May I ask which part of North America that accent's from?
Originally from Chicago.
Okay, so I spent a lot of time in the States recently, and in Illinois in particular, wherever you go in the States, as soon as you enter a new state, they're fiercely proud of their food, their culture, their people. That's what Yorkshire needs to get back to. Less about welcome to Yorkshire and more about the people, the place, the infrastructure. And in terms of an investment of time and money, 3 campaigns that we've got ready to go, just if you take only this away with you. The personal membership, which we launch on Yorkshire Day, we will plant a tree for everyone that signs up. That's £20. You will receive a tree planted in North, South, East or West Yorkshire. You'll also get a little Y badge. You'll get the magazine. You'll get entry into competitions. I can't see any other organisation delivering that over the next year. Project number 2, from the 1st of January 2021, we will launch Walkshire, which is combining Yorkshire and our pastime of walking in the Dales, in the national parks, the coastlines. It's a free activity. It's completely inclusive. It's free. It's accessible. We can do city walks, mountain walks, cultural walks, my favourite pub walks, you name it. And the 3rd project is a Song for Yorkshire, a community-led schools project that will celebrate Yorkshire in all its forms, north, south, east and west. These are 3 projects that will cost very little, but actually your contribution will go to that. The spin-offs will be wide-ranging. So thank you, Councillor Mulligan, for your support.
Councillor Madeley. Muted, Peter.
Sorry about that. Thank you, James, for that excellent presentation. And I want to support this project 100%, same as Councillor Mulligan. This is something, it's £25,000, but with somebody with the passion of yourself for Yorkshire, it's I'm sure it will bear fruit. And we need help, because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. People say they do, but they don't. We don't know what's is around the corner these days. So something of your actual programme is, I think, very good value for money. Thank you very much. And I will be supporting this.
Thank you.
We appear to be going into the debate, but anyway, Councillor Barrett, please.
Yeah, just on a slightly different note, I was just reading in the report about paragraph 3.5 about all the changes which have taken place. And I would just like a bit more reassurance about the audit and governance side of the organisation, which clearly was lacking in the past. You know, I see you've got a public sector chair, or you're going to appoint one. And yeah, if you could just give us a little bit of reassurance about that side of things, and about the openness of the organisation. Will minutes from meetings be publicly available, or what's the position? You know, I know you're not a public organisation as such, but I think there's certainly a need for openness certainly with your supporters anyway, if nothing else. I'd just be interested to know on that. But besides that, we're not wishing to go into debate, but you know, I think we do need to look forward, Chairman, but I'll save that for later if you want to come in again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barrett. On that, so you're right, the new chair was appointed, I think, back in October of last year, Peter Box. seasoned politician from Wakefield, leader of Wakefield Council. We have a board of 12 people. In fact, that's 10 now. And split down the line, we have Carl Les, leader of North Yorkshire County Council. We have Mayor Ros Jones, leader of Doncaster Council. And we have a number of private sector members as well. Additions have been from the legal profession, from the banking world. Has my internet gone off? Oh no, people can still hear me. Can you hear me, Councillor Foster?
Loud and clear, James. Carry on.
Sorry, I thought it had frozen. So, Councillor Barrett, yes, we've got not a 100% new board, but 50 to 60% new board members. All board meetings are held in public, notwithstanding the last one, but I'll explain why. Our minutes are approved, as you would know, working in the public sector, that the next board meeting, we sign off the minutes of the last meeting. And we're all about transparency. I have no option but to declare my salary, my staffing budgets, all expenses. And I think the failure of Welcome to Yorkshire in the past has been that whilst it delivered considerable success on a grand scale, I think the audit trail, the governance, the accountability wasn't there. It certainly is now. There are no more skeletons in the closet, I'm hoping. We've spent 6 months ridding the closet of skeletons, but at the same time, I'm only as good as the information that's presented in front of me. So we've had to make significant changes and bring the right people in that can make sure I've got a balance sheet that represents profit, loss, past, present and future. But, you know, I've been there and done it in the public sector or public profile before, and I'm happy to do it again, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you.
Councillor Brockbank, did you want to say something before we zip into the debate? And then Councillor Rose, I think.
Yes, it's a question for James. And you've talked about some very interesting projects. How will you measure success in after your first 12 months?
Great question. Thank you, Councillor Brockbank. And it's something that I say to the staff in every meeting that we have. You know, what does success look like and how can we measure it? So, having run my own business in the past, it was measured only on one thing, which was profit and customer satisfaction, because if at the end of the year there was a big minus in the bank balance, we were doing something wrong, even if all our customers were happy. In this instance, we've got the very best of the private sector, the very best of the public sector in support and finance and ability of reach. We've also probably got the worst of the private sector and the public sector. And when I say worst, I mean complete transparency, which is fine, but I've got lots of paymasters to be responsible to, all of which want a demonstration of value for money. And then we've got the private sector. And when I say the best and worst, when the going's good, the money's there. When the going's bad, they retreat. And that's totally understandable. So what good looks like is reducing our wage bill and our operating costs to a manageable amount a year. And I would say that's around 1 to 1.5 million, which is the ask that we've put forward. And I think success would look like, success probably won't come in terms of pounds, shillings and pence in year 1, but in year 2 and year 3, we will be able to develop our own income streams that will be less reliant on the public purse, but actually offering data and insight to all of you as key decision makers that will enable you to make better decisions. That might be on infrastructure, that might be on road networks, that might be on visitor numbers to town centres or attractions. That might be insight into the future of tourism so that you can make the right decisions on whether you invest in saving an art gallery or investing in a new arterial road to get people from Craven to the Dales or to the Yorkshire coast. Success will look like civic pride back in Yorkshire. That's very difficult to quantify, and that's a guttural instinct. So I can't tell anyone if they're proud or not. That will come in some of the events that we've mentioned, some of the campaigns that we've done, that we eventually deliver something that's worthwhile for the county, that makes you feel proud on both a national and an international, but a regional level. But actually success will look like being able to deliver in 12 months a report to you that has shown where your £25,000 has gone. I don't think we can do it to the granular detail, but, you know, putting Craven and putting Yorkshire back on the map in terms of what our perception and our awareness across the country. I think if people start talking about Yorkshire as a place to come and live, work and study across the whole county, then that's what success will look like to me. And at the moment, I think we're probably trailing to places like Cornwall, to places like London and the Midlands. But in a year's time, I think we can probably turn that conversation around. I also think success, Councillor Brockbank, will look like the media being back on our side. Because I must say, I've been disappointed in the last 6 months of some of the reporting of Welcome to Yorkshire. We have a tarnished history, but if we keep referring to our past, we'll never ever grow from this. And I've travelled on the LNER lane from London to Scotland for the past year, and if I was to pick up certain local newspapers, I would be disappointed to think that we're all falling out in lumps in the county. That's an observation, not a criticism. And I think in a year's time, success will look like us all pulling in the same direction to promote, celebrate Yorkshire for all it's worth, and less about Welcome to Yorkshire. If we don't appear in the newspaper ever again, that will be success. More about our businesses and our people.
Councillor Rose, and then we will definitely move into the debate.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mason, for your many and detailed comments. My concern is that residents need to see very clearly indeed where this £25,000 is actually going to go. Ratepayer, for example, here in Skipton, could argue that those £25,000 could be better spent elsewhere. So making it public, as you've referred to with respect to audit and governance, would be much appreciated. And actually doing something to get rid of, if at all possible, the tarnished history, because obviously residents will read the local newspaper, they'll read the national newspapers, and at present they don't see a very good view, obviously, of Welcome to Yorkshire. So I do think there's a lot of work to be done there to restore confidence, particularly, the man on the omnibus needs to be reassured that we as a council are putting our money towards something that is definitely going to give us good value, and they will need to see that good value. They'll need to see the results, and as Councillor Brockbank has mentioned, they want the measure of success. That also needs to be made very clear as to what will the man in the street, the woman in the street benefit from all that you have suggested. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we have to be honest, and I think Councillor Mulligan mentioned it. £25,000 is a lot of money, but also it isn't a huge amount of money to run any marketing campaign. And I think it's key that we manage expectations. Can we convince more people to come to the Craven district? Maybe, possibly, or arguably not. However, if we're successful in convincing people that coming to Skipton Castle or coming to Skipton, for example, for a day out is the right thing to do, it's up to every business owner, every councillor, every inhabitant of Skipton making sure that their offer is as good as the rest of Yorkshire or the good of the rest of the world. We can only do so much for that £25,000. We have 1 million social media followers across the world. That's fresh air now, it's free. So how best we can use that £25,000 is coming up with creative campaigns to make sure that we put Yorkshire on the map. Once people are in Yorkshire, it's very then, to some extent, it's over to the rest of the county to make sure that their offer is strong, and that's Craven District working in collaboration with us. So highlighting the campaigns, the festivals, the pubs, the bars, the restaurants, the inherent events that are going on in Craven for us to amplify. You know, we're a platform. We're a very successful platform, but in terms of granular detail, it would be very difficult for me to offer any of you here where £25,000 can take you. The alternative argument would be, what could you spend £25,000 on and get the same value? We can't offer an economic impact report for £25,000. We can't, so that's fact. What we can do, though, is set some metrics that we can be measured against. And I think it's probably for you all in your debate to ask what you want from that. Do you want more visits to the Craven and District website? Do you want increased people into your towns and villages? If so, there's only so much we can do with £25,000 to achieve that. I think what we can do, though, is continue to make sure that Yorkshire as a whole is on the national consciousness, that we can attract people to the region. We can quantify that and deliver it. Craven to North Yorkshire to East Yorkshire, South and West. But I think the exam question probably needs to be set by yourselves and to see if we can answer it, because I think it's the aggregate that we need to celebrate Yorkshire, not the individual amounts, because it would be almost impossible to quantify. What I mean by that is, I can spend £25,000 on a month's worth of advertising around the M25, and I can probably get 1 million people to see the adverts. If you think that's money well spent, we can do it, pushing Craven. Or is it an umbrella organisation that can celebrate Yorkshire and the Craven District for 12 months and bring all your constituent parts into it? You know, we can do either.
Right, thank you, James. That's been very, very helpful, I think, to all the members. If you want a metric from me, it's if we can extend the tourist season by a couple of months, because at the moment we've got our normal tourism interest isn't coming to the Dales. The older end are unfortunately staying at home, because I think there's still a fear there. We're getting younger people coming to the Dales. They don't necessarily spend, and our businesses aren't necessarily set to cater for them. So I think these things to look for in the future. But extending the tourism season, if there is a vaccine and stuff like that, and making sure that people know that the business is still open, will be hugely crucial. But we'll move into the debate. I'm sure you're welcome to stop as a member of the public. For my mind, if we turn around tonight and tell the local businesses that we are not funding Welcome to Yorkshire, the only significant body we've got, I mean, tourism is not in a good way, despite what people think. There's loads of people in the Dales, but a lot aren't spending a penny. We've got a lot of young people working in jobs in the catering industry, and we're definitely going to lose some through this. There's no two ways about it. Probably the weaker ones are going to go, but that doesn't mean that people aren't going to lose jobs. And just to turn around and say tonight, we've just got rid of the one organisation, or helped to get rid of the one organisation that could probably help them at this time, would look a bit petty. But at the same time, we do need to see those results from Welcome to Yorkshire. And I think it's been really helpful to see that James has come tonight. He's willing to come and talk to us about what he's doing, and he's here for questioning. And believe me, I've questioned him over a few things over the lockdown. So I'm happy to move it this from the chair. The recommendation's very straightforward. It's a £25,000, and then I'll open the debate.
Yeah, do you want me to leave now then, Councillor Foster? Is that probably the appropriate thing to do?
Might be best, James, and then they don't feel frightened of saying something in front of you that you don't do here.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you for your time, everyone. Yeah, I am a family man, so I'd probably best get back and see the kids, but thanks for your time, everyone. And Paul Chevlin can share my details with anyone, mobile number and email if you want it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, James. Brilliant.
All right.
Richard, I'd like to second that, your motion.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm looking around for raised hands. Councillor Wheeler.
Yeah, actually, I'm quite comforted by his answers to the questions and the presentation he gave. I think looking at what some of the schemes they're putting together, we're going to get more than £25,000 worth of marketing out of this organisation for sure. I think the only area of worry is that I'm sure he said, that, I mean, he said he set for a year, but it was kind of all or nothing. and there's still this, from the district councils, there's still 160,000 shortfall. I'm just a bit concerned where he's going to get that from. Unless, of course, you know, he sounds quite an expert in paring down his business to suit what he's got. Maybe that's what he'll do. But in terms of answers to questions and what I think we'll get out of it, I'm convinced from what he said that we're going to get a lot more out of it than financially we've put in.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Myers.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Wheeler. The problem we have with Welcome to Yorkshire, which was borne out in the end, it was the lack of governance. I think all of us in sort of public life were concerned that this was a body that took a great deal of money and was very unaccountable. And as I say, that in the end was shown to be a concern. I'm very comforted by what appear to be very stringent government structure now. That was always my big concern about what. In terms of whether, as a county, and therefore parts of that county, we are better served by clubbing together and getting a lot more for our buck. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We have no alternatives at the moment. We are coming, God willing, we're coming out of the pandemic. We need to get people to Dales, to Craven and to Yorkshire. And at the moment, these are the only people really with a game plan to do that. So I am in favour of, it's a good deal of public money, but it's money well spent. It's a sector that needs our support. And I think this is really the only plan on the table. I know that there are others, but they're not there. They're not in a tell us what and how we. Maybe this isn't an either or in any event. If there are schemes for promoting the Dales, then we can look at those as well. And perhaps they can work more closely with them. I do think this, given the reassurances that we have, governance is good value for our money. And I think it's good to hear somebody who's so enthusiastic.
Don't appear to be enthusiastic for Welcome to Yorkshire as well, Simon.
I was keeping silent earlier because I have a very unruly Jack Russell. I'm very sorry about that. I'll try and gag him. Yeah.
Councillor Rose, you were waving.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't found the right button yet. The handy thing. I like the idea of obviously improving our prospects from the point of view of the tourism and the essential aspect that tourism is for us here in the Dales in particular, with respect to employment, businesses, etc. Do we have any idea at all as to how much recovery has already taken place with respect to, say, bed and breakfast bookings or holiday bookings? Is there a feeling that there's a bit of optimism already? Do we know where things are at the moment? Are there bookings in the future, for example, campsites and so on? I feel slightly embarrassed that I still feel I need to be convinced that we are going to get good value for money out of this £25,000, because obviously on the agenda we've got several other items that are going to require funding in some way, shape or form. I suppose my question really is, do we have any idea how much recovery has already taken place with respect to the tourism industry? I don't know.
I can only be anecdotal, Councillor Rose, but businesses around here are doing better sort of now, but they were very slow picking up, but they're still not up to 100% in any way, shape or form. and the
No.
restrictions that they do have on them is making it very difficult to then supply and serve those people. So it's we're nowhere near back to full throttle. The campsites are doing fantastically well. They're busy. It's cheap holiday. They seem to be absolutely at max, but then other businesses aren't doing as well. But that's anecdotal, if you know what I mean, from my
Yes,
perspective.
yes, fair enough.
I'm
Yeah,
seeing
I
it on the
take
ground.
that. Yeah.
Councillor Barrett.
Right, yeah, get to grips with this. Yeah, yes, Richard. Yeah, I too was impressed by Mr. Mason, his presentation, and it comes across very well with the enthusiasm, etc. And I think with all the transformation which has taken place and the reassurance which I was pleased to hear about the governance issues, I think, you know, we really do need to support this organisation and try and move it forward. Like I think Councillor Myers said, it's the only sort of player in town at the moment, and that doesn't mean to say we've got to support just anything. But I mean, you know, I'm confident that we will, as an organisation, get value for money out of this, and I think we've got to, you know, commit to it, Chairman, and commit to supporting Welcome to Yorkshire. Thank you.
Councillor Hazeltine.
There has to be a significant economic recovery across the nation, and certainly the Chancellor of Exchequer is doing a fine job on kick-starting that. Our £25,000, if it goes in this evening, isn't even a spit in the ocean. But it's the economic recovery that is important. I'm not convinced by the arguments that have been put forward tonight about the long-term future of this organisation. I've always supported it. I've always supported it over the years. But as Councillor Wheeler said at the beginning of this debate, the question is, can it be done differently and can it be done better? And that's something that needs looking at in the next 12 months, I would have thought. Certainly a more local approach would be welcomed by local businesses in particular. As on these occasions, I have done a straw poll of my public, the electorate, my constituents, and it's a very significant no on putting further money into Welcome to Yorkshire. A very significant no on that straw poll. If you had an animal that was as tragically terminally ill as this appears to be, then before now you'd have had it put down. And no doubt Welcome to Yorkshire might not last that much longer. But we are certainly drinking at the Last Chance Saloon here. And on this occasion, against my electorate and against some of my better sense, I will support this last contribution. But don't forget, members and public, this is on top of a usual annual contribution. Not convinced.
But, Councillor Brockbank.
Yes, I think we all agree that £25,000 is good value for money. We wouldn't get a lot of marketing for that price, and I'm convinced that James and his team will do their best. We certainly need to promote training to support our businesses, our tourism industry, and the businesses related to that. And I think for that, and it is a one-off financial contribution, and I think the circumstances that we're in with COVID-19, it needs a boost, and I think it's worth I won't say worth the risk. I think it's worth following up, and I'm going to support it.
Councillor Welsh, then Councillor Rose, and then I don't appear to have any more hands unless anybody's desperate.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me right? This is very interesting because it's what I would call a balancing act. Basically, we all look at our areas we represent, etc., etc. A lot of members are probably aware of a campaign that we had on this year and last year because of the certain areas that I represent. We've had over tourism to a certain extent that the local people have their lives rearranged because of the over tourism. Luckily, I was on the National Park Authority where we worked with the officers to get a code of conduct for people walking the Three Peaks and be organised people, organised parties, or just individuals, the B&Bs, hotels. So basically, it's called a conduct. To a certain extent, I was actually interviewed on the Jeremy Vine programme, which was interesting as it turned out. We also have some days like 720 motorbikes going up Ribblesdale every, not only going up there, coming back, heading up to Hawes. It's what they call the Dales TT ride, and it's like I say, I repeat, it's a fine balancing act. It's probably because of the closeness that we have to East Lancs and West Yorkshire. We're about to ride out for motorcyclists, people in the Dales, one thing or another. Yet on a weekend not long ago, around Saintford Foss, the volunteers collected 53 bags of rubbish, barbecues, you name it, left behind. And as I said before, it's a fine balancing act. I'm very aware that yes, there are public houses, shops, etc., do need the tourism, shall we say, but like I say, it's a fine balancing act. Yes, we have success stories. We have the Victoria Hall in Settle, where most of the online bookings are from people outside the area. It looks like about 15% of the people that attend the oldest music hall in the country are actually local people. The rest are from away, and it's a lot to be said for it. For those that obviously it benefits Skipton and Settle, we now have the launch of the Staycation Express, which I fare down to go on it myself. That benefits Skipton, that benefits Settle. And all these things, if they're publicised in the right way, can actually be beneficial. I will support it, Chairman, and I sometimes think, well, there's more to Yorkshire, and obviously the Ribblesdale, dare I say Malham there as well, the tourist hotspots. I sometimes think that if it was spread out a bit more evenly, but however, I'm not going to be the fly in the ointment. I will support it, just feel as though I should have to say about the over tourism. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, I think we've suffered a bit of over tourism in Wharfdale as well just recently, but that's by the by. Councillor Rose, and then we'll definitely go to the vote if that's all right.
Thank you very much, Chair. This is just a question. I've obviously missed a vital piece of information. How much does Welcome to Yorkshire already get from us per annum? Somebody mentioned that there's an annual, we pay them something already, we pay something towards it already.
There's money comes out of the business rate pool, isn't there? Paul Shevlin, do you want to come in?
It's 10,000, but that comes out of the business rate pool, so it's not directly from our coffers. That's been picked up from that pool, certainly for this year, and if I remember correctly, last year as well. It used to come out of one of David Smurthwaite's pots previously, and he was ever so pleased when it stopped coming out of his pot.
On that note, members, I'm happy to take it to a vote. I do think it's a different organisation. I think we're giving it the horse another year of life, and it may just come out of its dotage and start to run about the field again, Councillor Hazeltine. And if it does, then we can support it again. If it doesn't, we do need to be looking at other ways and means of supporting tourism, because we still need to do it. It's a huge employer. But anyway, happy to go to the vote. Nikki, over to you, I'm guessing.
Thank you, Chairman. It's been proposed and seconded by yourself and Councillor Mulligan. So if I just call your name out, can you say whether you you want to vote for the recommendation, against it, or you're abstaining? Thank you. Councillor Foster,
For.
Councillor Barrett,
For.
Councillor Brockbank,
For.
Councillor Heseltine.
Very reluctantly for.
Thank you. Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liss.
For.
Councillor Madeley. Councillor Madeley.
Vicky, it did come up on the screen that he had left the meeting.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Councillor Morell.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
Enthusiastically for.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Welsh.
For.
And Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous, apart from Councillor Madeley, who seems to have left the meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vicky, and thank you, members. Moving on, agenda item 6, over to Councillor Liss for this. Give me the wrong title.
Thanks very much, Chairman. yeah, too easy to get mixed up in it. Whilst understandably our attention recently has been taken up with the effects and impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly on our local economy, and we can't ignore our responsibilities of supporting, we cannot ignore our responsibilities in supporting a greener and more sustainable future. Craven District Council has set out a clear vision in its adopted climate emergency strategic plan, which hopefully you can all remember. This report tonight that we've seen in front of us offers a unique opportunity for the council to access substantial external funding to achieve the net zero carbon target it set itself by 2030. If the recommendations are approved tonight and the bid is successful, it'll see the council introduce a range of renewable energy solutions across its operational buildings. The project is anticipated to save approximately 330 tonnes of CO2 emissions year on year. And as a step towards achieving our sustainable future, these measures are invaluable. And as such, I have no hesitation in commending this report to the committee and moving the recommendations that you see in front of you, members. Thank you very much.
Looking around, members, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. I can't agree with Carl Moore. This is something we shouldn't be doing. There's some money there. In theory, we can make the council a bit of money in a few years' time, which is a bonus out of being green. There'll be also some jobs in fitting and sorting this stuff out. So it's something we just ought to be getting on with in my mind. But Councillor Barrett.
Just a question, Chairman, insofar I'm obviously supportive of this issue, but as regards, Bellevue Square, the premises which obviously the council rents, what's the situation with the landlord? Is the landlord contributing something on this or what? I mean, at the end of the day, I know some of them, I can see the benefit from the council point of view, but clearly there's a benefit from the landlord point of view as well. And I just wonder where that sat in relation to this issue. If somebody could give us an answer on that, Richard.
I'm either got Carl or Paul Ellis, I'm guessing.
Could I hand over to Paul on that one? I am aware that we've got quite a substantial level of ecosystems within the building, but with regard to the future and the liability of the person that we rent the building off, I'm not quite sure. So if I could hand over to Paul, I'd appreciate that, Chairman.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Darren could probably give an update on discussions with the landlord. I know we've We've approached them several times to seek a contribution and support from them on some of these initiatives. Whether Darren can give us an update as to whether we've been successful in securing any contribution from them.
Thanks, Paul. At present, no. We're currently still in discussions with the landlord. However, we've made the application flexible enough that means that if it's not something that we can go ahead with, we can basically redivert those funds into measures on another site. So it's something that we're still, as I say, having the discussions ongoing. Because the other thing that that we would need to consider as part of that, as well as the landlord making a contribution, is other users of the building also benefiting from any measures that we put in place.
Thank you, Paul and Darren.
Could I just add to that, if you don't mind, Chairman? I mean, I think as far as that's concerned, I would hope that the landlord will take his responsibility in terms of climate change as seriously as we're taking it, and as such, we'll have some positive negotiations with him.
We're done. Patrick, did you have your hand up? Or Simon definitely does. If we've got Simon next.
Yeah, I'm hugely enthusiastic about this. It's exactly what we should be doing, and there's a pot of money available to help us do it. It's the perfect opportunity. I mean, Bellevue Square, I can see, obviously, there may be problems with the landlord. There may also be problems because the building's listed and it's a very visible roof, but matter for the planning and English Heritage to comment on. But I'm encouraged by the fact that it's flexible, you can put it elsewhere. And I know in terms of the town hall, because of the lay of the roof, it will be possible to do it without offending anybody from English Heritage. So, but yeah, really, really good scheme, and I hope the first of many. But it's great use of our match funding for the benefit it will bring, achieving our targets. I could second it as well.
Back to me. I've Councillor Nolan, Councillor Nolan, then Councillor Wheeler.
Is it me now, Richard?
Councillor Nolan, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, all very good. Obviously, you guessed I would support it. Excuse me. I asked Paul about this about a year ago. Paul Sheveling. So I've got a frog, just what I don't need a frog. Regarding Bellevue Square, if the landlord or landlady isn't going to help, wouldn't we get, the council get 100% of the sort of revenue from the generation? If we're going to pay for the whole installation, then wouldn't we just get all the revenue from it rather than sharing it? Obviously, if they're going to help out with the installation, then we would share the revenue. Isn't that, am I being too simplistic on that? Maybe an officer could answer that one, because I don't know whether I'm being a bit naive.
I would require an officer. I'm looking at Darren or Paul, whoever jumps in. Darren.
Yeah. What we need is permission from the landlord because of using the roof space. So as I say, because it's a shared building, what we need to take account of is that we need to make sure that we're doing things that means that we're not disadvantaging other users of the building. So potentially we could take the benefit from it, but that would mean that we'd have to use just part of that roof space, leaving space for the others to do something at some point. As I say, it's early days in terms of those discussions. The landlord isn't against it. They're making positive noises for supporting it, but we just haven't got it over the line yet. But as I say, because there's some flexibility in the scheme and what we're proposing, if it doesn't come to fruition, then we can redirect that funding to elsewhere.
Thank you. Councillor Wheeler.
Oh, bear with me, sorry. Oh, it's down, that's it. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of this as well. I asked in advance of the meeting again, Darren, some questions. Bearing in mind where the funding's coming from, I was just asking whether, in light of the fact we're racing towards the end of the transition period, this money's going to be still available to us. And I've been told that there is nothing on the horizon to say that we won't get this funding. But the point that was made earlier, that this sort of scheme we should be looking forward to doing more, does beg the question, once we're out of the EU, where this funding will be forthcoming, where from, because I'm not sure whether there's that much money sloshing around UK funds at the moment for this sort of project, unless Carl can correct me on that. And the only other question bearing that is that I asked about, is there any other ERDF funding that we're looking at? And I gather Langcliffe Quarry is a project that is going to be reliant on that kind of funding. And does this looming deadline of crashing out the EU have any kind of impact on that funding at all, or is that nailed on?
From my point of view, Langcliffe Quarry should be on the next policy committee. I think it's scheduled to come in there. It's just as reliant on ERDF as it is on a growth deal, and both end at the same time. So, yep, we need to get on and get it done. But and we will. And like I say, it's coming to the next policy meeting, so we can get that brought forward. I'm hoping anyway. Well, no, I'm sure it's coming. So, on that note, members, I'm looking around. All hands are down. I think we're ready for a vote, Vicky, on this one.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So it's been moved by Councillor Liss and seconded by Councillor Myers. So as usual, I'll just call out your name, and if you can stay whether you're for, against, or you're abstaining. Thank you. Chairman, Councillor Foster.
I'm for. Very for.
Councillor Barrett.
For.
Councillor Brockbank.
For.
Councillor Heseltine.
For.
Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liss.
For.
Councillor Madeley. Oh, he's left, hasn't he? Sorry. Councillor Morell.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Welsh.
For, but could I also add at the same time, I should be leaving for item 12. I tried to get it in earlier, but I couldn't do because of my association with North Yorkshire County Council. I have to get it in there. I couldn't get it in before, but I'll mention it now. But yes, for.
Okay. Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Okay, thank you. That's unanimous, Chairman, for the recommendation. Thank you.
Well done, members. Nice to be able to talk about something really, really positive in it.
Well done, members. Well done, Carl. Thank you for that. Now we're over to Councillor Ireton for the Sport for Settled Swimming Pool report, item 7.
I hope we're going to continue with things positive, Carl. Yeah. Am I unmuted?
You are. You are.
Right. Yeah. Support the Settle Swimming Pool. Settle Swimming Pool has been in operation since 1974. And it was built by local contributions, responding to local concerns about the need of children and the learn to swim. And that is still a need today. The facility strategy, published in 2016, identifies the importance of the Settle area swimming pool in meeting recommended requirements for provision of water space for Craven residents, particularly in relation to the significant geographical location in the north and the west of the district. Both also identifies swimming as the most popular sport in Craven and provides a significant opportunity to increase participation in sport. Early records show that Craven District Council supported the grant funding in one form or another since 1992. There has been a reduction of a business plan incorporating proposed future facilities. The plan demonstrates how the proposed development is a high strategic fit with national and local economic health and planning strategies, including the Council's Built Facilities Strategy 2016. There is an amendment to the recommendation, Chairman, which is to add on to confirmation on the state aid implications of supplying the project should also be provided before financial support is given to Settle Area Swimming Pool for the project. That is an add-on to the recommendation. I will move the recommendation that's in front of you, Chairman, with that amendment, with that added, and listen with interest to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I don't know what happened then, but your microphone did seem to go very bad and then very good again. I don't know if it's foot near it or something, but it was just a bit unclear. I've Councillor Welsh, then Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure members have read all the papers. Just a few notes I've made. I don't want to go into any great detail about it. I think it's adequate to point out what it says, Settle Swimming Pool, but when you look at all the wards that have been included in the discussion, I think it does cover a wide area for the whole of like Mid and North Craven. It's a valuable asset for the schools, our children learning to swim, for the visitors, for the locals. As Councillor Ryan says, positive pastime. We have hospital physio sessions, and it's a fantastic facility for us in that North Mid Craven. I'd like to also praise although it has stopped during the COVID, the volunteer paper and cardboard collection guys that go stuffing the cardboard and paper into the containers during all weathers. It doesn't generate as much income as it used to due to a fall in the value of waste paper, but it is increasing slowly. And we may get back to that. We'll have to wait and see. The charity shop's doing quite well. And I'd like to pay tribute to the committee, swimming pool committee, that worked their socks off to try and keep things running. You'll have seen a section regarding new doctor surgery and health centre. Well, we're working with the district councillors, Staveley and Hull, in fact our chief executive as well, for the new surgery and health centre that we hope to get. I'm not going to say much more about it. It's quite self-explanatory, and I see it has been moved. I can't remember whether it was seconded, but if it wasn't, I will second the recommendations as written with the addendum. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Welsh. I have Councillor Rose, then Myers, then Heseltine.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Welsh has just said, I really think this has got to be supported without any hesitation whatsoever. So much has been done by the volunteers, the trustees, to make progress, to plan for the future, and to ensure ongoing funding, which is no easy task at all. With respect to keeping adding to the swimming pool facilities, etc., I just think it's excellent. Health and well-being is just so important locally for all concerned. And as Councillor Welsh has said, it's not just Settle, Mid and North Craven. We know now that, well, we've always known the importance of physical exercise, improving mental health and well-being. I can't think there's any reason why we should not pass this particular recommendation. I think it's excellent, and again, tribute to the team that have kept the whole system going. So I'm very much for it. Thank you.
Sure, it's not often you and Boris Johnson say the same thing about the same thing on the same day, Councillor Ross. Councillor Myers.
Yeah, I'm very much in favour of this for all the reasons that members have outlined. It is part of our job as district councils to support the health and well-being of our residents, and thank heavens we do it. It's exactly what we have those capital sums set aside for. I think there could be a slight concern about the sustainability of the business model, particularly post-COVID, and I note the amendment to the recommendation. Sorry, the 2.3, the recommendation saying that we'd like assurance that the business plan is still valid. Can I just suggest a potential amendment to that, that we are satisfied, that our financial team, that Richard Way is satisfied, not that the applicant is happy with it, but that we are happy with it. We gave up the core funding of the swimming pool some time ago. And at the time, I can't say I was very in favour of us doing that, but having adopted a new model and not core funding, but helping them to be sustainable, as we've done with Victoria Hall and various other things, is a key thing. It's just important we know if we're likely to be landed with an ongoing cost, and then the council can. But I think it is money well spent for the benefit of our residents and their health.
There was some sort of amendment in there. I'll go to Councillor Heseltine and then to Councillor Mulligan.
Thank you, Chairman. We have heard in the news this last week that many municipal and private pools will not reopen after COVID, that they'll be gone and gone forever. Settle Swimming Pool has to be congratulated for what it's done over the years. Simon Myers says we did put core funding in, but we were never generous with it at all, compared to what we put into facilities at Skipton and others, a difference of scale. So I strongly support this. I'm going to have to leave you people, but I would strongly support item 8 as well when you get to it. On my screen, it flashes up that the battery is low. Now I can't get it to charge at all, so it looks like, I don't know if it refers to the technology that the battery is low or my battery is low, maybe both. But any second now, I'm going to go up in a puff of smoke with this technology. So can we have a vote on this quick before I disappear, please?
I'll just go to Councillor Mulligan.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm going to have to address this item in my capacity as lead member for financial resilience, because I'm very concerned about the business plan as presented, and I'm very concerned about us pledging up to £265,000 towards this project. And I've got several questions. I hope there's officers here who might answer them. First question is, paragraph 4.4, we have funding identified so far. Can you tell me whether that funding has actually been achieved, that they actually have a commitment for it, or is that just a projected notion? I don't know if Sharon's here or David Smurfway.
I can answer that question. The funding identified in 4.41, all that has been achieved. So they've got the balance from their accounts from last year. They've got the grant confirmed from Sport England, and that is the remaining balance that the Friends of Settle swimming pool have, and they've said they will put that towards a new build, and then they will fold that charity up, and Settle Area Swimming Pool, the new constituted body, will take on that function, and they have had the COVID bounce back loan agreed, so all that funding has been agreed.
What is the COVID bounce back loan?
So this was loans that businesses could apply for to help them through the time of the pandemic. So they've applied for that loan and had it approved.
So that's a loan.
But that is still to pay back.
Yeah.
That is still to pay back. They
Okay.
had, in terms of the funding model, they'd identified potential planning gain, but that hasn't been included in the funding identified so far, because planning gain can take a long time to come to fruition. But there is potentially about £70,000 that's been identified that could be negotiated on development sites within the local plan that could fund and be allocated to Settle Area Swimming Pool.
Right, so they still need £115,000 even if we give them £150,000, and we're saying we'll underwrite that. And then in 4.4.2, they identified tarmac landfill communities. That's where they're putting all their eggs in that basket. They're not identifying any other source of funding.
That's the only one that they had identified. So they can't apply to tarmac until they have planning permission granted. But they are planning to do a community fundraising campaign to raise some of the other funds. And they know locally in Settle there is a lot of support for the fund. And so they are confident that they can raise a considerable amount of money locally. But because of the current circumstances and because of COVID, obviously at the moment they are operating on a reduced model. So one of the reasons to bring the report is, if they could do the work now and get this done in this uncertain period of time, it makes sense, because they would have to close the pool at whatever time this building work would need to take place.
Okay, but given, let's just go on to the business plan a bit. Given what's happened with COVID, and there's absolutely no mention of it in the business plan. There's no anticipation of it, like who could have anticipated it. And yet now we're in a state where we don't know, even when leisure facilities reopen, we don't know how many people will be allowed in a swimming pool or a class or in the gym, etc. And without that information, without any projection of breadth, this is not a good business plan, it's obsolete. We need either a new business plan, or we need some attention paid to post-COVID situation, because otherwise I don't see how this is financially sustainable.
I absolutely agree, which is why in the recommendation it does state that obviously it would be a proviso in relooking at the business plan. It's just, I think for the pool, it's really unfortunate that they'd invested all this time and money in producing the business plan for the pandemic to hit, which obviously they couldn't have planned for. And so they will have to revisit the business plan in view of how the centre can be run in the current circumstances. And we still don't know moving forward how long this will last for. So it is very uncertain. I do recognise that. And that is a piece of work that clearly does need to be done, which is why that is referred to in the recommendation.
Right, and then how will that be sort of verified? Will there be an independent auditor of some sort that will look at what they're saying in the business plan, or is it our officers, or because they
well, I think it would need to be brought back. I don't know in terms of if you would want it to be brought back to a future policy committee, in terms of you commit to the funding with the proviso that this piece of work is done. I suppose for the Settle Pool committee need to know that, I suppose it's worth their investment in this piece of work in order for the potential development to go ahead. I think it's recognising that the pool is run by volunteers who've put an enormous amount of time and energy. You know, the current chair who took over in 2015, she's done such a lot of work to bring it to this point. And so basically, I think they need to know that it's worthwhile them putting the time and energy to do this. And they, you know, if we did agree to underwriting the funding. But I don't know, in terms of the mechanics, would we recommend bringing it back to a future policy committee, or could you give, is it recommended to give delegated authority to say CLT approving the business plan? I'm not quite sure what the mechanics would be as to what to do with who sort of signs off a new business plan in the post-COVID world.
I don't think
I might have a bit of a hint from our monitoring officer. In 2.3, instead of saying health and wellbeing extension and confirmation from settled area swimming pool, it actually says chief finance officer. And it could also include lead member and lead member for finance, Patrick, if you feel you'd like to be in at that. And if you really aren't happy, then you'll have to bring it back to policy to tell us why you're not happy. I think that would be probably the best way. I think that takes Simon's amendment into play as well, if that helps.
Yeah, I just, Richard, my only point is that we've just had an hour discussion about £25,000 for, you know, Welcome to Yorkshire. Now we're talking about £265,000 for a swimming pool and settle. And to be honest, I don't think this is the right, I know that they've done a lot of work, but everyone has suffered from COVID. Every life has been disrupted. And to make that commitment now, especially when the council finances are in a very perilous state, to be honest, I just am very concerned about it. I'm not sure that this is the right project to be committing that amount of money to at this point in time.
Like I say, I think if we do that, it comes back to chief finance officer, lead member, which is Councillor Ayton on this one, and yourself to give it the once over and check that business case is sound. And if it isn't, then you're going to have to come back to us and explain why it's not sound and why maybe, you know, or if we're going to have to fund it into the future and to get that, you know, assurance so they can go forward with this business case.
Okay, I agree with that. I'm happy to go on.
Councillor Myers, was that sort of your amendment? But I'm actually looking more towards Councillor Ayton and Councillor Welch as the proposer and second.
Yeah, no, it was really what I was suggesting as the amendment. I hadn't phrased it so elegantly, but yeah, that's it. So that you know, that yes, we're assured by those we delegated to that there's a decent, sustainable business case, and bring it back to policy. Yeah.
Are you happy with that amendment, Councillors Ayton and Welsh, or do you want us to vote on the amendment first?
I was quite happy. Sorry, I was quite happy with it first time round. I think we're complicating it too much. Let's start looking at the positives instead of the negatives. And I was quite happy as it was first time round. Thank you.
Well, with that, can we go to the vote on the proposal then, Councillor Councillor Foster, rather?
I'm not sure there's an amendment. Is there an amendment? That's what I want to know.
I'll move that amendment, Chairman. Simon's amendment.
Councillor Myers?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Right, so we're voting on the amendment first, I'm taking it.
Can you read us what the amendment was that Councillor Myers made?
It was sort of a combination between myself and Councillor Myers, and I'll go to the monitoring officer. That's okay.
Thank you, Chairman. So my understanding is that from recommendation 2.3, we're deleting the words from SASP and inserting the Chief Finance Officer in consultation with the lead member and lead member for finance. Is that correct? Thank you. So that's what we're voting on.
Right, thank you.
On that note, then over to Vicky to take the vote on the amendment.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So I'll just call your name out as usual, and if you could just say whether you're voting for this amendment, against it, or whether you're abstaining. Thank you. Councillor Foster, Chairman.
For.
Councillor Barrett.
For.
Councillor Brockbank.
For.
Councillor Heseltine.
For.
Councillor Ireton.
Against.
Councillor Liss.
Yeah, I'm against as well on this one, on the amendment.
Councillor Morell.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
Abstain, thank you.
Councillor Welsh.
I'm against the amendment.
Okay. And Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Okay, thank you. I'll just add them up then. There was 9 for the amendment, 3 against and 2 abstentions. Chairman.
Take it now, we're on the substantive. So I'm assuming it's roll call again, Vicky, if you can let it off going again.
Okay, thank you. So this is for the recommendation with the, this is with the amendments that was included at the beginning to what you've got actually in the report, which was confirmation of the state aid implications of supporting the project should also be provided before financial support is given to SASP for the project. That's added on to the end of 2.3.
Yep, agree with that, Vicky. That's
okay, all right, okay, thanks. Chairman, Councillor Foster.
I'm very much for.
Councillor Barrett.
For.
Councillor Brockbank.
For.
Councillor Heseltine.
I think Councillor Heseltine may have left the meeting, Vicky.
Okay, right, thank you. Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liss.
For.
Councillor Madeley. No, he's gone, hasn't he? Sorry.
Yeah.
Councillor Morell.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
Very much for.
4, yeah. Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Welsh.
For.
And Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Okay, that's everybody voting for that substantive motion, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. Before we take item 8, I'm a bit mid-scrolling down. The item on the Rafa Club, I believe Councillor Jacquin would like to say a few words. So over to you, Councillor Jacquin. Unmute yourself.
Right. Unmuted.
You are, carry on.
Okay. Members, community centres have been established throughout the district, including many village halls in all wards of the council area. The existing Rafa Club has existed for many years, but now there are not enough ex-Royal Air Force servicemen to support the association.
The current trustees wish to maintain the facility and have recently redecorated and refurbished the District Council's assets for their continued use. The premises have recently been used as a polling station. This evening's papers include the proposed constitution and a business plan for the further future operation of the venue. The application for a premises licence has been submitted and is advertised with a closing date for comments in the middle of next month. I trust that you, the members of the Policy Committee, can support the recommendation in paragraph 2.1 of the report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacqueline. Councillor Mulligan, is it yours?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I don't have too much to add to what Councillor Jacqueline just said. I think this is effectively, it's sort of a name change. It's the organization be run by the same people. It is a valuable, it has social value in the area. And as Councillor Jacqueline mentioned, it's also used as a polling station. That's one of the conditions. We have a 5-year break clause in case anything happens, but I will move the recommendation in 2.1.
Happy to second from the chair, but Councillor Myers, sorry.
I was very happy to second as well, but I'm hugely enthusiastic about this. Really important facility up there, and it takes care of a property that might otherwise be a problem for us. We discussed it at some length in last year, I think it was, renewed the lease, and I purpose of this alteration, and it's all to the good, so very much in favour of it.
Looking around for other hands, nobody else is shouting or waving. So on that note, happy to go straight to the vote, I'm guessing, so over to Vicky.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll just call out your names, and if you can just say for, against or abstain in relation to the recommendation in the officer's report. Chairman, Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Barrett.
For.
Councillor Brockbank. For. Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liss.
For.
Councillor Madeley. No, he's gone, hasn't he? Sorry. Councillor Morell.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Welsh. Councillor Welsh.
Can't see him here anymore.
No. Okay, must have left the meeting then. 8:12. Thank you. Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Thank you. So that recommendation's carried, Chairman. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I think it's back to you, Patrick, on the staff discount or short-term car parking, low usage staff car parking.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a proposal to introduce a low usage staff parking permit for a 6-month period between July 1st and 31st of December while the COVID restrictions apply. I think this is a very sensible proposal, Chairman. We know a lot of people are now working from home part-time, and so I don't think it'd be right for them to be paying a full-on parking usage when they're not there most of the time or half the time. This does have a financial implication. We're estimating it would result in reduced income of approximately £2.6 thousand over the next 6 months. But as I said, I think this is a fair proposal for the staff. Thank you. I'll move it.
Second it, Chairman.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. I'm looking around for everybody waving madly. No, everybody seems happy. So over to the vote again, please.
Okay, thank you. Right, just call out your name and just say whether you're for, against or abstaining from the recommendation. Thank you. Councillor Foster, Chairman. Councillor Barrett.
For, and just can I take the opportunity to say that I'm going to leave the meeting after this item, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brockbank.
For.
Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liss.
For.
Councillor Morell.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Welsh has gone. Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Chairman. The recommendation is carried. Everybody was in favour of the recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you again. Moving on, I'm hoping this next one goes as easy. Working with North Yorkshire to deliver affordable. We've known we wanted to deliver this type of housing for quite a while. We've struggled a bit to find the plots of land. This seems to work. It works for the county, it works for ourselves, and as is mentioned in the report, because it's a county council site, there will be some further land coming forward. If we don't have the suitable tenants that North Yorkshire want to put in, it will go back on Home Choice, so we won't be leaving these houses empty. So I think it's a win-win as it stands at the moment, and we just need to move forward with it. So happy to move it from the chair.
Second it,
Looking
Chairman.
round for a hand or anything. Anybody saying anything?
Second it.
Thank you, Councillor Ireton. Councillor Rose.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I just read it. When I read it through, I thought this is just so good, and it is a really good example of inclusivity and some way in which we can show our support and provide an essential aspect of living arrangements for those vulnerable and those in need. So I was very, pleased to read about it. I'm highly supportive of it. Thank you.
Yep, people can be in very difficult situations, both for themselves and the families, and getting that relief of knowing they're going, you know, the children are going into somewhere secure is hugely important for those parents. After that, I think we look like we're going to the vote again, Vicky.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Foster.
For.
Chairman. Councillor Brockbank. For. Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liss.
For.
Councillor Morell.
For.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
For.
And Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Chairman. That was unanimous. Thank you, Chairman.
You, and really thank you, members, for that one. Moving on, next item, Councillor Myers, update on Skipton Town Hall.
So it's nicely headed, this as an update, very cunningly disguised as an update. As you can imagine, members, I'm really delighted to be here asking you to give some more financial support to the redevelopment of Town Hall. It's made me in a really jolly mood all week. You can see the reasons, it's well set out in the report. The fact is, as members know from previous discussions about this fantastic project, we are dealing with a building that has not been maintained properly for a very long time indeed. And of course, what's become apparent during the renovations is that not only has it not been maintained, but it wasn't built properly. So we've had to deal with things like lack of foundations, shoring things up, cast iron girders holding up stone walls, supported by thin brick piers and all the rest of it. And beyond that, of course, COVID-19 has had an effect on that. Now, it may well be that the original contingency at 7% was a little on the small side in any event. I think they're more standard industry figure, particularly when dealing with old listed buildings. But you'll see that out of an abundance of our surveyors recommend that that is what I ask you for. And insofar as we can be, we hope that will be the last time that I will have to grovel before you for what is a very, very important project, and I think will be very key in the regeneration of Skipton and Craven in due course. It probably couldn't be coming in some ways at a better time. So it's unfortunate that it's going to cost a bit more, but it is so worthwhile in the long run. I'm unfortunate that we're dealing with a building that has thrown up problem. Members will have read the report. I thank Danielle for that. She and David Smithwaite, the whole team, have kept a very, very close eye on this. It's not through but circumstances, and we've tried to cut our cloth as well as we can. I should just say that I was there yesterday, and for those who feel able to have a socially distanced, masked and sanitized visit, well worth a visit. It's really coming. We're on track. But apologies for asking, members, but that is my ask that you drop the recommendations of the report and see this through.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Got Councillor Mulligan.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to cause any trouble, Simon, don't worry. I've been a strong supporter of this project, and I continue to be. So I just had a question, maybe it's for, I don't know if it's for David Smithwaite or yourself, but I noticed in 3.4 that we have actually gotten the Heritage Action Zone funding, £258,000. And, you know, when you do the calculations about what you have to allocate some to, and we've committed 1.6 million underwrite to it. And even in spite of this 100,000 that we're now committing, we would still get £83,000 back against our 1.6 million. So I hope that's the case. And also, I'm wondering whether there are any other funding sources on the horizon to help us with our underwriting.
Yes, that's correct. So the purpose of this is really to say that the overall envelope is going up by 100,000. So we've got 180,000 for this element from Heritage Action Zone, and we're putting the first claim in for that in the next week or so. So yes, you're correct. So it's in effect it's picked up by this 100,000, and there'll still be the 87, which will can go against the 1.6 million. But in the overall cost, though, it is clearly going up by £100,000. In terms of in terms of bids in general, we've put 6 different applications in to date. We've been each one takes a lot of work, so it's quite disappointing when we get turned down. So we've been refused on the basis of being not old enough, not rural enough, too secular, all sorts of reasons. We've got through one round of European funding, but we didn't have enough private sector match funding and all sorts of things. So we've got the HAS. We're now focusing on bids to support the development of the education and training facility as it gets built. But also we're now looking to the future as well in terms of how we can get funding support for the ongoing costs to reduce those as much as possible. And also to make it a bigger enterprise in terms of what we can put on for the public as well.
Thank you.
Yes, guys. Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I think this is just a splendid project, and I think I do appreciate that funding issues are essential and appreciate the time it takes to put in the applications, etc. Nonetheless, this is a project that is brilliant, and even throughout COVID, throughout the time of the town hall being shut, in fact, more with respect to that than COVID itself. All the projects that have been going on elsewhere, even though the building itself hasn't been available, have been excellent. And the involvement of younger members of the community who are vulnerable, the dementia group, for example, I just think it's excellent. Despite the building not actually being available, the work is still going on. And I just think it's a project I wholeheartedly support. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Councillor Rose, I'm not sure how it moved and seconded yet, actually. But everybody supporting it.
Shall I second it then?
Through you,
Yeah,
Chairman.
I'll move it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right, it's been moved and seconded now. I'm looking around for any more members wanting to quote. Nobody seems to want to comment. So over to you, Vicky.
Thank you. Chairman, Councillor Foster.
Up for.
Councillor Brockbank. 4. Councillor Ireton.
4.
Councillor Liss.
4.
Councillor Morell.
4.
Councillor Mulligan.
4.
Councillor Myers.
4.
Councillor Noland.
4.
Councillor Place.
4.
Councillor Rose.
4.
And Councillor Wheeler.
4.
Okay, thank you. That recommendation's carried, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. I'm going to ask for the exclusion of press on public. I'll move that from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Myers is waving.
Yeah.
Does anybody?
Yeah, second it.
Does anybody not want to do this? Raise their hand or wave at me. No,
Sorry,
so
Chairman. Sorry, Chairman. So is Guy turning off the broadcast then?
I am hoping so.
Yes, if you just bear with me one moment, everyone, because there is a slight delay on the live recording. So just before we move into the next item, just give you an opportunity to turn off the recording, and once we're ready to go, I'll let you know. Okay, thank you.
Cheers, Guy.